Just to be clear, are you filming or taking photos?
Yeah, filming.
It's not permitted for you to film this whole tour. Filming the whole thing, especially if it's going to go online, well obviously nobody's going to come on the tour, are they?
No.
It's not really in our interest for that to be happening.
This is obviously Al Youngham's house. Wow. Shrewsbury Prison, folks. Come across this on the ground. Don't actually know what it's for. It's obviously told something in. Guys, we are at Shrewsbury Prison tonight for a ghost hunt. As you can probably see over there, this is the entrance. But yeah, guys, we are going to tour the prison. Me and Chris.
Yo, guys.
Chris is right with me right now, and hopefully we'll see something. So stay tuned.
Shrewsbury Prison, especially if it is your first visit today. Anybody here for the first time?
First time,
Okay, welcome. Thank you for coming. Very excited to be doing our first evening of ghost tours of the season. So we've had a fantastic tour before yours. Lots of activity, so fingers crossed we have lots for you tonight. A little bit of health and safety before we plough into proceedings. Oh yeah, so do you need a wee before we start? Yeah. Yeah. It's like, it's not your last option tour, there are toilets around. Little bit of health and safety just to go through. Very, what? Is that your toilet mime? I'm just like, what are you doing? She's like,
Man is on a Saturday night.
Just so I get a little bit of feeling for the group. Is everybody Shrewsbury local?
No.
So come from further afield. Okay, welcome. Have we got believers, non-believers? On the fence, open-minded? A little bit in the middle. Okay. So all welcome. All absolutely accepted. We're not in the business of trying to convert anybody. It is just literally, it is what it is. All that we ask is that for everybody's benefit, there is a general sort of mutual respect within the group for the fact that people have different belief structures. We don't want anybody feeling like they're unwelcome or being laughed at, essentially. We're all coming at this from a shared place of interest, I think we can say, whether you're a believer or not. So that's the sort of level from which we're going to try and operate today. So health and safety wise, very common sense. It is a large building, it is very old, it is also very complicated. It is very, very easy to get lost in there. Trust me, I know, I've done it. Oh, that was a terrible day. Essentially, not so much of a problem with a group of this size because we've got quite a modest group for this one, so I don't anticipate a problem. But essentially, it would help us out if you yourselves are quite vigilant of where the group is at whatever time and try to stay with us, because what can easily happen, the biggest hazard really, is that people think, oh that's interesting, go off to take a photo of it, come back and we're gone. And it's like, and then you come around the corner and there's 3 options and you're like, I have no idea where they've gone. So if you could be vigilant and stay with the group, that would really help us out, because it saves me having to do head counts at every single corner. Essentially, we will be having opportunities for you to go and have free roam and take your photos and all that sort of thing. So you get plenty of chance. Nothing's off limits. You're very welcome to take photos of whatever you like, but just especially when we're moving between sections, stick with the group. It's really easy to lose the end of the snake and then be like, So to that effect, we'll be trying to mitigate this by having one person at the front and one at the back of the group at all times. Try to do that. So if we haven't met before, my name is Siobhan. My hoodie. That's Stacey at the back. We'll be taking turns to tell you little bits today. We are not expecting any kind of fire drill tonight, unexpectedly. So if the fire alarm goes off, we're going to be treating it as if it is a real emergency. Now, just to complicate the issue, sometimes the fire alarm does just spontaneously go off. If it does, we'll know the difference between a real one and not. The basic advice is just stay calm, return to the group if you're not, and await directions, because we'll always know where the nearest exit is.
If you see us running, you run.
We run.
I'm joking.
If by some stretch of the imagination you did become separated from the group, it happens, and you absolutely cannot find us, and maybe I don't notice immediately. If all else fails, get outside. So follow the fire exit signs, you'll see that they're all green. Get outside, and if you get outside and find this perimeter wall, it's a circle. So eventually, if you just follow that wall, you'll end up back here. And if all else fails, this is where I'll come to find you. Okay, simple as that. Nothing to worry about. Now, the other thing to tell you is that we do have, on this site, the kind of events where we have actors paid to wait in there, jump out at you, chase you around, all that sort of thing. We do that. But this tonight is not one of these. Oh my God. Okay? This is not one of those. I know you only have my word for that, but it genuinely isn't. The only human beings on this site tonight are the ones you see before you now. The door is locked, there is no other way in. Okay.
Yeah, I was just thinking that.
Then it's generally...
It's most definitely a ghost.
Yeah. Tell me so I can film. Yeah. Please.
It's like it's always
Point to me.
I want to know.
I'll be straight over.
Okay. So I think that is it really, apart from, has everybody brought torches? Some have, some haven't. You're welcome to use them. I personally think that you have a better tour if you don't. And the reason for that is, I mean, please feel free to use them if they make you feel better, if you are nervous, if you need to see your way. I think, personally, having done this for a few years now, I think you have a better ghost tour if your night vision is working. And every time you look at the torchlight, it will reset back to not being able to see anything. So, you know, it goes tap dancing past you and you wouldn't see a damn thing. Okay? So I personally think the less torches used, the better. But it's your tour. Do as you wish. Okay? The only thing I ask is please don't shine it directly at my face because that's a very uncomfortable experience. 12 torches.
That one is on you. Yeah.
Like, what do you do? Are you there? Yeah. So that's basically it. Apart from that, don't run. Even if you get spooked, please don't run because there's so many things. No promises.
Yeah, just jump out the window.
I am probably your first aider today, and that means you don't want an accident.
No promises on the running.
I'm saying nothing. Yeah, so I think, so how this is going to work, we are going to take turns to tell you some interesting information about various spots throughout the building. And your first spot starts right here, where we are standing. So I'm going to hand you over to Stacey's capable hand.
Right, okay, so...
Wow.
I always like to lighten the mood just before you make you laugh and giggle a little bit before you...
Die.
So, the ghost tour is starting right now. This is actually the original gate lodge right back to the Georgian times. This has barely changed. And this is where they used to do public executions, right above, just there. That's where the drop used to be. There's a flat roof above, and they used to let the bodies drop. And they used to open these gates right behind you, leave them open for an hour. The condemned man, woman or child would drop. They would leave them hanging for the hour, leave the doors open for the hour, and then the public was allowed to see. After a while, growing concerns started happening. They were worried about people trying to escape the prison while the doors were open, because they knew that those doors would be open for 1 hour. And they also got worried that people would try and stop the execution from happening. So they closed those doors, and then they moved them to the roof space that is just at the side. So when we walk through in a second into the prison, if you look behind you as you go in, you'll see the roof space and where the dish is. And they used to drop them just there for public use. This could sound really bad, but it was better to drop them on that roof space because they could drop more. They could drop 5 at a time. So that's where they used to do public executions, just over here. After a while they stopped public executions because it became more of a day out, more of a spectacle. It was no longer a deterrent anymore. Families would bring their children to come and watch the execution, and people used to sell things in the crowds to get extra money and things like that during these executions. So they decided to bring them indoors, which is where we're going to go very shortly. The experiences that people have in here is as follows. Sometimes we'll have some meetings around here and we'll be discussing things that we're going to do. This is about between 8 o'clock and 9 o'clock in the morning. We open at 9:30, so we've got a little bit of time to get ourselves together, make sure the site is ready, switch on lights, those sorts of things, our daily routines. But we'd come here first, and this is where we usually stand and talk about what we're going to do in the day. Sometimes through there's a little office, and that leads to upstairs, which is some office space upstairs as well. In that office, a lot of the staff members, we're a small team at Shrewsbury, and we all know each other's shift patterns and things like that. And sometimes we'll hear things through there. We'll hear like voices, like people talking, or we'll hear doors banging, or footsteps, things like that. And we're thinking, hang on a minute, so-and-so's not in today, so who am I hearing coming through that door? Nobody's supposed to be coming in yet. So we think maybe a member of the public has got in or something like that. So we're going to have a look, and there's nobody there. Upstairs, there's some offices, and that's admin, things all like, your usual office space. Somebody will be in their office, and they'll hear somebody running up the stairs. They'll come up and say hello, and there's nobody there.
Out of interest, have you ever heard horses?
Horses?
Yeah. So you want to be?
Yeah, no.
Is it? No, so. Just us.
They used to use horses a lot, especially when they used to bring them on wagons and stuff like that into the prison.
I
So
can
they
leave
would.
a horse, but that's me because I'm very
Yeah.
psychic. So that's
Yeah,
just me,
no,
so.
they used to use horses. We've not heard horses in that, but they used to use horses to bring a lot of the inmates in, because the original entrance to the prison, when it was a Georgian prison, is down here and round the corner. So they would bring the horses through, and they would go right round the corner, and then the original holding cell is all underneath there. So that's where. So it wouldn't surprise me if you heard horses, because they did use them back then, especially for. They used to have like paddy wagons and things like that to travel, like people that were in asylums and prisons and stuff like that. They used to call them the paddy wagon. Where was I? Offices, yeah. And some of the times they'll hear like banging, like people's office doors, because they're quite heavy doors, because they're metal doors, and then there's gates in front of those metal doors. So they'd hear the gates going, and they'd be like, well, who's in so-and-so's office? Because they're not supposed to be in there. So we'll go into each other's offices thinking that there's somebody there, and there's nobody there when they're talking, and we'll go and investigate again. It's like literally chasing ghosts around. You get so paranoid. Also, as well, we're standing around here like we are now, and we'll actually see.
Really?
Yeah. We'll see somebody like walk past like this.
Exactly like that.
Like that, like not smiling or anything. Scare you a bit? No, they'll have what's like walk past, like somebody's like completely oblivious that we're here and then just go right past. Now when you walk past in a second, you'll see, we'll come out thinking, who the hell is that? There's nobody supposed to be on site. It's 8 o'clock in the morning, or it's shut down time, so that's about between 5:30 and 6 o'clock. We'll come out here, we'll look that way, and there's quite a gap till there's a corner. So we'll think, okay, we'll catch them, and then we'll come out and there's nobody there. So then we have to walk the entire site to see if there's anyone there. So that's the experiences we have over here. After they dropped and were executed, they were buried on site right at the back in the unmarked grave. And on that point now we're going to go into the prison.
Right.
I'll leave
Oh,
you there.
no disco rave. There we go. Right, okay, follow me. You. Sorry. Right, come on in, guys. Yeah, right. I'll just pop up here. If we can just gather in this area, that'd be fantastic.
No. It was a real mannequin, but I don't care.
Only a
This is where I
mannequin.
get dragged into it.
I would put my hand.
Right, that's it, gather up. We're just going to be here for a couple of minutes while I tell you a little bit about this spot. Oh. Okay, so we now find ourselves officially inside Shrewsbury Prison, so welcome, you are now in zone. There has been a prison on this site since the 1700s, so we are reaching right back into the Georgian times here. Absolutely fascinating history. I love the history of this building. It is just, you can just keep on and on unpacking it. But by the very nature of it, it is, of course, quite grisly. It's got a lot of bloodshed. There's a lot of executions, a lot of death in various forms that's happened on this site over the centuries. And I'm just going to tell you a little bit about how it came to be that we put this tour together. Now, this place closed as an active prison 6 years ago now, and a couple of years after it closed, we took it over. So Jailhouse Tours and the Nurse of Events took it over, and we immediately started obviously gathering information for a day tour because people were curious. They wanted to come in. We wanted to throw open the doors, let people come in, have a look. They want to see what a prison looks like without the commitment. They want to sort of hear from the prison officers about what it was like to work here. They want to know the history of the building. They're curious about the execution room. There's a hunger for that kind of information. So of course, put the day tours together straight away. Started doing that. But as this was developing, we were collecting this other information that we just didn't know what to do with. It didn't fit in the day tours because people come to a prison for a lot of different reasons, mostly curiosity, historical interest, operational interest, and not everybody's interested in paranormal experiences. You know, it's not everybody's thing. But we were collecting this information, these stories, these anecdotes, this evidence, and we thought, well, there's too much of this and it's too compelling. We need to make it available. And so we thought, right, we'll do a different tour. We'll put this together. And we'll put a tour together for people who are specifically interested in this stuff. Now, this has come from information that has come to us historically, so, you know, stories that have been passed down since the Georgian and Victorian times. It's stuff that has also come from ex-prison officers that have worked here for kind of 30 years of their careers. We're privileged enough to still be working with them. They do the day tours, so if you haven't, if you're interested in the sort of anecdotes from the actual modern prison, you know, how it worked, what it was like to work here, definitely recommend the day tours because they are run by ex-prison officers that actually served their time here. So we've got the information coming from them. We have got information coming from ex-prisoners. So you may be surprised to know that people that actually served sentences here love to come back. You'd think it would be the last place in the world they'd ever want to see the inside of again, but they actually love to come back. They come back and they love to see their old cells. They want to tell us about what it was like to do their time here. And so we've had a lot of anecdotal evidence from them. We've had experiences that have been shared with us from people that have come here on self-guided or guided tours. So people that have come in and told us things that they've experienced while they've been exploring the building. Things that have been told to us by jailhouse tours and immersive events staff. So people that have been working here, people that are here after hours, lock up when everybody else is gone. And we've put all of that together. Now, if we had told you, if we were going to tell you everything, we would be here till 2 in the morning. Honestly, God, there is such a lot. But what we've tried to do, we have creamed off the best. We have identified key hotspots through the site that seem to be of particular interest. And we have put that together for you, hopefully, for your enjoyment this evening. So that's what we're going to do. Now, our first hotspot, in fact, is right here. Now, you may or may not be aware that they did actually take over this site to film Holby City at one point. So they, I don't watch it myself, but one of the main characters did some time in a plotline. And they came to film those scenes here. So they bought out the entire set. It was a closed shoot. There was no public coming in at that time. And they had the whole run of the place, so filming all sorts. And they set up their location headquarters office temporarily in this room here. Now, the operations, the locations manager for that shoot was up in the main wing. And he came down to get something from the office. So he, I don't know, he came to get something. But he came round this corner, and as he came round this corner, here he was confronted with this woman. Now, firstly, it was a closed shoot, but so there shouldn't have been anybody here that he didn't recognise. He didn't know this person. The second thing was that this person was wearing Victorian-style clothing. Holby City, not so much. You thought, this is a bit strange. The third thing was that she was walking away from him, and as she was walking away from him, she was sinking into the floor, which is the point at which he became very upset. He was not a happy bunny at this time. So he was very, very upset, told us what he'd seen, wanted to pull the plug on the whole shoot, said it was the most terrifying place he'd ever tried to film and just never wanted to come here again. Anyway, they did finish their shoot, they finished their filming and off they went. And that was what happened there. In and of itself, that account probably wouldn't have made the cut for the tour because, I mean, only he saw it, Victorian period style ghost, it's not exactly original, you could hear that on any ghost tour anywhere, to be honest. The reason why it's made the cut is because of one very specific detail that he included when he said what he saw, which was that she was sinking into the floor. Now, you may or may not be aware that beneath this site is a whole network of tunnels. Now they are, there's no other word for it, they are dungeons, that's what they are. They are Georgian dungeons because the Georgians loved to keep their prisoners underground. They loved that, they loved the psychological subjugation of it. It was like, you know, you are scum, you will be beneath the ground, you won't see the sun, especially if you were poor. They really treated their poor prisoners badly. Anyway, those tunnels were blocked off for a really long time. But we wanted to reopen them. Incidentally, we do a tour for that. So if you are interested in history and you'd like to see those, they are now open. We've done the work necessary to open those up, so you can go down. It's a hard hat and don't wear your best clothes job. It's dirty down there, but if you're into your history, fantastic.
That'd be good,
Is there any tour dates yet?
Is there what?
Any tour dates yet? Like to come in?
If you give the office a ring, I think they run it on an as and when. It tends to be Saturday mornings.
Okay.
But I think it depends what interest they've got. They don't. I think So give them a ring. They run it seasonally because sometimes it's a bit flooded.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, really recommend it if you're interested in your history. Absolutely fantastic. It's a fascinating tour. Anyway, so Anyway, we were doing the work necessary to sort of excavate these, and what he could not have known, because we haven't found it yet, is that there's a staircase right beneath our feet. And this staircase goes down to what was the wine cellar, because this location office that they took over for the shoot used to be the governor's living quarters. Now, it used to be that the prison governor would live on site much like a headmaster at a traditional boarding school. Like, most of his life would have taken place on this site. He probably wouldn't have, he very rarely have left it, to be honest. His entire life took place here. And he had a wine cellar, and it's right beneath our feet, and the staircase that leads to it is exactly where the location manager saw this woman going down into the floor. And we don't have a ready explanation for how he could have had that information and how he could have included such a specific observation on information that he couldn't possibly have done. What we are going to do in a second, we're just going to head on to the main wing. Is he coming back, or is he?
So.
Do you want to go and give him a nudge and just sort of say we're moving on? So,
It's the governor's office. Yeah. Just a desk. So like
I don't want to move on and like leave them, and then they walk up halfway through a segment and everybody has a cardiac. So we're like, oh, it's a ghost. Oh no, it's Stacey. Right, just bear with me and don't go anywhere, and I will be right back with him. So just had to have a quick discussion on reshuffling sections. So yeah, we're fine. So we just carry on. Be mindful that at some point they may join us, so don't have a heart attack when they do. So we're actually now going to go into A wing, which is the prison proper. This is all where it starts to look a little bit porridge. So if you've seen Porridge or Bad Girls, you'll recognise it definitely. Just to be clear, are you filming or taking photos?
filming.
It's not permitted for you to film this whole tour.
Oh right, okay.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't mind if you're going to be taking segments, but filming the whole thing, especially if it's going to go online, well, obviously nobody's going to come on the tour, are they? So,
Okay, yeah, no, we're following
so
it, no.
it's not really in our interest for that to be happening. Yeah, okay, so follow me.
All right. You want to go first?
So guys, we've just been told that cell 13 to 20 is where the suicide started. Careful with step.
I'll go into.
First night's one, yeah.
I'll go in here if someone comes in here with me. Okay.
Shut the door.
So we're in cell 13.
14, this is.
Oh, 14, sorry.
Cell 14, guys.
This is crazy. I can't believe
It's
you're
like this bit around to be better.
Right, we're going into cell 13. Which cell are we going into?
Going on until we get to 20. Lost my torch.
So we get to the one that I had the experience out of. They're only small cells, aren't they?
They are very small.
I can't even believe we're just standing in a cell.
I don't know what was that. I don't know what that was over there.
What was it?
Just a plastic seat.
Oh, I don't like this one.
16.
Is it just me, or have you got a weird vibe in here?
I feel alright, I know.
Oh, I'm glad you do.
Because it doesn't bother me that much.
Why is that there? Of all places. Why? I don't know. If it's... It looks like one. Oh no, I don't like it. You're going in first. This has got to go in. I dare you to sit on the bed.
Sit on the bed.
Jesus Christ, you're crazy! What the heck is wrong?
Trying to blind you.
Yeah. What the heck is wrong with you? You're literally crazy.
That's Chris, I am crazy.
If any of you guys are watching this at home, he is nuts. Oh, it's got another bed.
Another one, oh god.
Oh, I'm going to end up sitting on this one, aren't I?
You're that anyway.
Why am I doing this? Why did I say I'd do this for your video? Oh, I don't like it. Did you? Oh, what? I'm not temperature at 7:30. Oh, okay.
7:30.
Get me out of this now. Get me out of this now. Oh, Jesus Christ, it's a mountain. Oh, hell no. Oh,
There's a projector. Projector
there's a
here.
here.
There's a projector.
Oh, shit! Oh, Jesus Christ.
This is obviously Al the Youngham's house. Wow.
I'm just...
That's crazy.
I watch him crying.
Thinking, what's going on there? If you want to see anything, I sense 30.
30, that's why we've just been,
30, freezing.
Oh, 30, yeah.
Yeah, there's quite a strangling feeling when I go in there.
Oh, okay.
So
Well,
that's
30,
like your
so-
30
That's what I got
on the
in-
left-hand side.
That's what I got in.
And then, you know, after that.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm coming.
Were you getting that when she was talking? Yeah. Oh, thank God I'm not getting that. No. Where
Charlie.
you got an
No, I got it from over there. She was saying it's from there.
I got it from bought.
Yeah, I got it from the other side.
Oh, yeah, that's really cool. Room 1. Did you say you're scared? No, I said it got past down the road.